Brits drink over 100 million cups of tea every single day. But what's really happening inside your body with each sip? The science might surprise you. Welcome to Clay Science UK, where we explain science through clay animation. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into what happens to your body when you drink tea every day, backed by real studies from the NHS, UK Biobank, and leading universities across Britain. By the end of this video, you'll discover why your daily cuppa might be one of the best health habits you have, and we'll show you exactly what's going on inside your body, molecule by molecule. Let's start with what happens in the very first moments after you take that first sip. Within 15 to 30 minutes of drinking tea, caffeine reaches your brain. But here's what makes tea special compared to coffee. A standard cup of black tea contains only 40 to 70 milligrams of caffeine, while coffee packs 95 to 200 milligrams. That's less than half the caffeine. Now you might think, well, doesn't that mean tea is weaker? Not exactly. Tea contains a unique amino acid called l-theanine that you won't find in coffee. When caffeine and l-theanine work together in your brain, they create what scientists call a state of calm alertness. You get the mental boost without the jitters or the crash. Research from Cambridge University shows that this combination improves focus, reaction time, and cognitive performance more smoothly than caffeine alone. The caffeine blocks adenosine receptors in your brain. Adenosine is the chemical that makes you feel tired, so when it's blocked, you feel more awake and alert. But the l-theanine increases alpha wave activity in your brain, promoting relaxation without drowsiness. It's like having your foot on the accelerator and the brake at the same time, in perfect balance. That's why tea drinkers often report feeling energized but not anxious. At the exact same time caffeine is reaching your brain, something else remarkable is happening in your bloodstream. Powerful antioxidants called polyphenols, specifically catechins like EGCG, begin circulating through your body. These aren't just any antioxidants. They're some of the most potent free radical fighters found in nature. Free radicals are unstable molecules that damage your cells, contributing to aging and disease. Think of them as tiny vandals running around your body, spray painting graffiti on your cell walls. The polyphenols from tea are like a cleanup crew, neutralizing these vandals before they can cause serious damage. A study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that black tea, which is what most Brits drink, contains theaflavins and thearubigins, unique polyphenols that form during the fermentation process. These compounds have been shown to reduce oxidative stress and inflammation throughout the body. Within that first 30 minutes, these antioxidants are already going to work protecting your DNA, your blood vessels, and your organs from cellular damage. Now let's talk about what happens to your digestion and hydration in these first 30 minutes. You might have heard the myth that tea dehydrates you because it contains caffeine. That's actually not true. Multiple studies, including research from the British Nutrition Foundation, have confirmed that tea hydrates you almost as effectively as water. The mild diuretic effect of caffeine, which makes you urinate slightly more, is minimal at the doses found in tea and doesn't outweigh the fluid you're consuming. So every cup of tea you drink genuinely counts toward your daily hydration goals. The NHS recommends 6 to 8 glasses of fluid per day, and tea absolutely counts. In fact, tea might even hydrate you better than plain water in some ways because it contains electrolytes like potassium and magnesium that help your body retain and use the water more effectively. As we move past the first 30 minutes and into the first few hours after drinking tea, the effects in your body continue to build. The caffeine reaches its peak concentration in your bloodstream about 45 minutes after consumption. This is when you'll feel most alert and focused. But unlike coffee, where you might experience a sudden spike followed by a crash, tea provides a gentler, longer-lasting energy curve. That l-theanine we talked about earlier helps smooth out the caffeine's effects, extending your mental clarity for 3 to 6 hours without the sudden drop in energy. During these hours, your cardiovascular system is responding positively to the polyphenols in your tea. Research published in the British Heart Foundation's journal found that the flavonoids in tea help your blood vessels function better by improving what's called endothelial function. The endothelium is the thin layer of cells lining your blood vessels, and when it works properly, your vessels can dilate and contract efficiently, regulating blood pressure and blood flow. The catechins in tea help produce nitric oxide, a molecule that relaxes blood vessels, improving circulation throughout your body. This is why regular tea drinkers often have better cardiovascular markers than non-tea drinkers. Let's talk about metabolism. Within a few hours of drinking tea, your metabolic rate increases slightly. The combination of caffeine and catechins has been shown to boost fat oxidation, which means your body becomes slightly more efficient at burning fat for energy. A study from University College London found that drinking 3 to 4 cups of tea per day was associated with better weight management over time. Now, this doesn't mean tea is a magic weight loss solution, but it does mean that as part of a healthy lifestyle, tea can support metabolic health. The effect is modest, about a 4 to 5% increase in calorie burning, but over months and years that adds up. Another fascinating thing happening in your body during these hours is related to your gut microbiome. The polyphenols in tea don't just act as antioxidants. They also serve as prebiotics, feeding the beneficial bacteria in your intestines. Research from the UK Tea Advisory Panel found that tea drinkers had more diverse gut microbiomes with higher levels of beneficial bacteria species. A healthy gut microbiome is linked to better immunity, improved mood through the gut-brain axis, and even better skin health. So your daily tea habit is literally feeding the trillions of helpful bacteria living in your digestive system. Now let's zoom out and look at what happens when you drink tea every day for weeks, months, and years. This is where the research gets really exciting. The largest study on tea drinking in the UK followed 498,043 people for an average of 11 years. This massive research project published by the National Institutes of Health found that people who drank 2 or more cups of tea per day had a 9 to 13% lower risk of death from any cause compared to non-tea drinkers. That's extraordinary. The protective effect was even stronger for specific causes. Tea drinkers had significantly lower rates of death from cardiovascular disease, stroke, and certain cancers. The study controlled for diet, lifestyle, genetics, and other factors. So the benefit really does seem to come from the tea itself. What's especially interesting for us Brits is that this study specifically looked at black tea drinkers, not green tea. And the benefits were there whether people added milk, sugar, or drank it plain, though the healthiest approach is limiting added sugar. Let's talk about what tea does for your heart over the long term. The British Heart Foundation has extensively researched tea's cardiovascular benefits. The flavonoids in tea help reduce LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol that contributes to plaque buildup in arteries. They also help prevent that LDL cholesterol from oxidizing, which is when it becomes particularly dangerous. Regular tea consumption has been associated with lower blood pressure, reduced arterial stiffness, and better overall heart function. One study from the University of Oxford found that drinking 3 cups of tea daily reduced the risk of heart attack by 11%. For stroke, the risk reduction was even more impressive. The antioxidants help protect brain tissue and improve blood flow to the brain, reducing both the likelihood of stroke and the severity if one does occur. Now let's discuss something incredibly exciting: tea's potential anti-aging effects. A study published in 2023 analyzing data from UK Biobank participants found that regular tea consumption was associated with slower biological aging. Biological age is different from chronological age. It measures how old your body actually is at the cellular level, based on markers like DNA methylation, telomere length, and inflammatory markers. The researchers found that people who drank tea regularly, especially 3 cups or more per day, had biological ages that were younger than their chronological ages. The The polyphenols in tea protect your DNA from damage, reduce chronic inflammation, which accelerates aging, and support cellular repair mechanisms. Think of it this way. Every cell in your body is constantly battling stress, toxins, and normal wear and tear. Tea provides your cells with reinforcements, an army of antioxidants that help maintain and repair cellular structures. Over years and decades, this protection adds up. It's like the difference between a car that receives regular maintenance versus one that doesn't. Both cars age, but the maintained one stays functional and healthy far longer. Tea might also protect your brain as you age. Several studies have found associations between regular tea consumption and lower rates of cognitive decline and neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. The mechanisms aren't fully understood yet, but researchers believe it's due to tea's antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects in brain tissue, combined with improvements in blood flow to the brain. The catechins in tea can cross the blood-brain barrier, meaning they actually enter your brain tissue where they can protect neurons from damage. There's also evidence that l-theanine supports the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, a protein that promotes the growth of new neurons and protects existing ones. Let's talk about tea and cancer prevention. This is a sensitive topic, so I want to be clear. Tea is not a cure for cancer, and it shouldn't replace medical treatment. However, population studies have found intriguing correlations between regular tea consumption and lower rates of certain cancers. The polyphenols in tea have been shown in laboratory studies to inhibit the growth of cancer cells, reduce tumor formation, and even trigger cancer cell death through a process called apoptosis. Epidemiological studies, which look at large populations over time, have found that tea drinkers have lower rates of breast, prostate, colorectal, and lung cancers. The effect is modest, but consistent across multiple studies. Researchers at Imperial College London found that the protective effect seems strongest when tea drinking is started earlier in life and maintained consistently, suggesting that tea's benefits are cumulative over time. Now, what about tea and your bones? This is something often overlooked, but it's particularly relevant for Brits, especially those living in areas with limited sunlight. Tea contains fluoride and phytoestrogens that support bone mineral density. Studies have found that regular tea drinkers have stronger bones and lower rates of osteoporosis and fractures in older age. The effect is particularly pronounced in older women who are at highest risk for bone density loss. One study in the Archives of Internal Medicine followed over 1,200 older women for 5 years and found that those who regularly drank tea had significantly higher bone mineral density in their spines and hips compared to non-tea drinkers. Let's address some common concerns. What about iron absorption? It's true that the tannins in tea can reduce iron absorption from plant-based foods when consumed at the same meal. However, this effect is minimal if you have adequate iron stores and doesn't affect iron from meat sources. If you're concerned about iron, simply drink your tea between meals rather than with meals, or add a squeeze of lemon, which provides vitamin C that enhances iron absorption. What about fluoride? Tea plants naturally accumulate fluoride from soil. While fluoride is important for dental health, excessive intake can be problematic. However, the levels in tea are well within safe limits for most people. Drinking 4 to 6 cups per day is considered completely safe. If you're concerned, younger tea leaves contain less fluoride, so higher quality teas generally have lower fluoride levels. What about caffeine sensitivity? If you're sensitive to caffeine, you might experience jitters, anxiety, or sleep disruption from tea. However, remember that tea contains much less caffeine than coffee, and the l-theanine helps moderate caffeine's effects. If you're still sensitive, try limiting tea consumption to morning and early afternoon, or switch to decaffeinated tea, which retains most of the beneficial polyphenols. What about staining your teeth? Yes, tea can stain teeth over time due to its tannin content. But this is a cosmetic issue, not a health issue. You can minimize staining by rinsing your mouth with water after drinking tea, using a straw for iced tea, and maintaining good dental hygiene. Interestingly, despite the staining, tea actually supports oral health. The catechins have antibacterial properties that reduce harmful bacteria in your mouth, potentially lowering your risk of cavities and gum disease. One more important long-term benefit: tea and mental health. Several studies have found associations between regular tea consumption and lower rates of depression and anxiety. A meta-analysis of multiple studies found that people who drank tea regularly were 20% less likely to develop depression. The mechanisms aren't entirely clear, but researchers believe it's a combination of factors. The l-theanine promotes relaxation and reduces stress hormones like cortisol. The antioxidants reduce inflammation, which is linked to depression. The ritual of tea drinking provides mindfulness and routine, which supports mental well-being. And tea drinking is often social, providing connection and community. Let's bring this all together. What really happens to your body when you drink tea every day? In the first 30 minutes, caffeine and l-theanine reach your brain, creating calm alertness and improved focus. Powerful antioxidants begin circulating, protecting your cells from damage. Tea hydrates you almost as effectively as water. Over the next several hours, your blood vessels function better, your metabolism increases slightly, and your gut microbiome is fed beneficial compounds. Over weeks and months, your heart health improves with lower cholesterol, better blood pressure, and reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. Your risk of stroke decreases significantly. Over years and decades, you may be slowing your biological aging, protecting your brain from cognitive decline, reducing your risk of certain cancers, maintaining stronger bones, and supporting better mental health. And all of this from something as simple as brewing a cup of tea. According to the best available science from UK institutions like the NHS, British Heart Foundation, and UK Biobank, drinking 2 to 4 cups of tea per day appears to be the sweet spot for maximizing health benefits. Black tea, which most Brits drink, has been studied most extensively and shows all these benefits. Green tea is also excellent and contains higher levels of certain catechins, but black tea is just as beneficial for cardiovascular health. Whether you take your tea with milk or without doesn't seem to significantly impact the benefits, though some studies suggest drinking it without milk may allow slightly better absorption of some antioxidants. What definitely matters is limiting added sugar, as excessive sugar intake counteracts many of tea's benefits. So the next time you brew a cup of tea, you can feel good knowing that you're not just enjoying Britain's favorite drink. You're engaging in a health ritual backed by thousands of scientific studies, protecting your heart, brain, and body one sip at a time. Pretty remarkable for something so simple, isn't it? Now I'm curious, how many cups of tea do you drink per day? Do you take it with milk, sugar, both, or neither? Drop a comment below and let me know your tea habits. And if you found this video informative, give it a like so more people can discover the science of tea. We have more videos coming about British health habits, the science of coffee, what happens during a British winter, and much more. Subscribe to Clay Science UK for new videos every day at 6 p.m. GMT. We explain science through clay animation, making research accessible and entertaining. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, put the kettle on.